Alright, good morning everybody. My name is Kevin McDonald. I'm an engineer here with the InRoads Technical Support Group in Huntsville, Alabama. Today we are going to be talking about InRoads title block integration with ProjectWise XM Edition, and we're also going to be talking about using managed workspaces with InRoads. So to go over today's agenda, the first thing we're going to do is look at the title block integration. We're going to use InRoads and ProjectWise to automate the population of the title blocks. The first thing I'm going to do is show an example of the plan and profile generator just to demonstrate the concept there. We're going to look at using title block integration with the plan and profile generator and with the cross sections, which is new to InRoads SP1. Then we're going to, after that, go into a detailed setup of the title blocks and the environments in the ProjectWise administrator that enables you to use this integration. After we go through that detail, we're going to look real quick at setting up managed workspaces to be used with InRoads. So a couple of tricks that you need to use and implement if you want to use those while running InRoads at the same time. So the first thing we're going to do is go directly into the title block integration, starting with InRoads V89 Service Pack 1, which is due out here very soon. InRoads has added the ability to use ProjectWise automatic title block integration with cross-section sheets generated by InRoads. This functionality has already been in the product in the plan and profile generator, and so I'm going to demonstrate this first as an introduction to the concept. So the first thing we're going to do is switch over here to InRoads and demonstrate it. I'm going to go to Drafting Plan and Profile Generator first, and I'm going to go through and set this up for a normal Plan and Profile Generator run. I'm going to load my preference, and I'm just going to go check each tab to make sure things are set up properly. If I go to the Plan Controls tab, I'm not going to put any model files in there. I'm just going to use the one I'm in. Go ahead and check and make sure both of my surfaces are going to be used for the profile controls. When I go to sheet layout, I'm going to be running this through ProjectWise, so I'm going to make sure that my correct seed host file is selected. It will take me out to my ProjectWise data source. I'm going to set the filter down here to all applications, and I'm going to make sure that I choose my correct seed DGN and open there. I'm going to create these new sheets into a folder in my directory out here. The folder is called Highway 12 Sheets. And I'm going to give them a name. And I'm going to save that, and that will populate then my information here in the host file tab. I'm going to browse out there to see that sheet c1.dgn is going to be the one that gets created. I'm going to lay out my plan and profile sheets along the alignment. Again, I'm going to continue checking the setup on my tabs. The view layout tab looks good. The border and title tab, I'm going to be using a reference file border. And this brings up, this is a good point to stop and talk about where the title block integration is going to occur. In this example, I'm going to be using a reference border, and as we talk today about the plan and profile generator and the cross-section tools, there's two ways to integrate the title block data. The first is when we use a reference border, we have the added ability on the Symbols and Detail tab to put in the ProjectWise title block cell. If we use a border cell, then we can just have our title block cell nested within the border cell, and I'm going to show an example of that once we get into the cross-section functionality. So in this case, the plan and profile generator, I'm going to use the reference border cell. I'm going to go out and browse and find my reference border. It's dsizeboarder.dgn. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to use also the plan and profile's ability to populate its title block data with the InRoads data that it's aware of. Title block data.dat. And again, when we get into cross-section set, I'm going to talk about this more. to automatically populate our title block data, we're going to use a mix of the InRoads title block data and the title block data that can be read in from ProjectWise. This adds a lot of really powerful functionality because there's some information about the sheets that only InRoads knows. Only InRoads, for example, knows what alignment it was created down. It knows instantly the number of sheets that are going to be created and the number of sheet that the current one is. It knows other information that is stored only in InRoads. So we're going to go ahead and let InRoads populate that data. And then we're going to let the more generic information that might apply to the whole project be populated by the ProjectWise title block data. So, and again, I'm going to show that more when we get actually over to the cross section. So I've set up my border here correctly. I'm going to go to Symbols and Details. And again, I'm going to attach a cell named title block data. Now this is a cell that I have specifically set up to be populated by the ProjectWise title block information. And again, the detail of setting that up is what I'm going to cover after I do these few runs here. Match lines is set up sheet index. I'm going to go ahead and hit apply and run the plan profile generator. Now as these are processed, you can see on the right side of the title block the green text. That's the text that's being placed by the title block cell that we're going to ultimately replace with our own title block information data. That's this text out here, the project, the year, the lead, director, and the route number. This is again generic project information that I'm going to go and populate for all my sheets at once in ProjectWise. This information is in that title block cell, and I'll again go through later and show how to do that. So I'm going to close the plan and profile generator. I'm not going to save the VDF file. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and check in these DGNs that were created by the plan and profile generator. And to do that, I'm going to go to the ProjectWise organizer in the InRoads menu. And I see my 4 sheets that were created by the plan and profile generator. I'm going to highlight all those and choose to check those in. And just remember that this is the generic data here coming from that title block cell, and I'm going to go populate it with real data. And of course it can't check it in because I'm currently in that one. So let me cancel that and go to File, and let me cancel out of there. I'm going to go to File, Open, get back in that original survey file that I was in so I can check in this last plan profile sheet. Alright, check this last one in. And close the organizer. Now if I switch over to the ProjectWise Explorer, I can go to my Sheets folder and I can see the 4 plan and profile sheets that were created by the plan and profile generator run. If I do a properties on one of these sheets, I can go to the Attributes tab and I can see the title block information. Here I have data fields here ready for me to enter in data. So I can come in here individually and enter in the project name or the code, the route, the director, and again this is generic information that it doesn't name the name of the alignment that the profile sheets were cut across. It doesn't name the specific stations. Again, this is information that InRoads might not know about, and this is information that if I do want to bulk change a set of sheets, I will do it here in the attributes. So I'm going to close and I'm going to choose all 4 of my plan and profile sheets, and this shows just a real powerful ability here. I can go to the modify command and I can choose the this is kind of the attributes tab, and here again these are all the items that are in my title block cell. So I can come in here, enter in my project code. Let's make it 2007 dot maybe the project number. I can name the director, and maybe the transportation director for your state might change during the job. You can come in here and do a bulk modify. The letting year, I can say it's 2008 is when we're going to let the project. The project name, is going to be maybe Highway 12, and then the route number. Again, this is generic information for the project. So when I hit apply here, it's going to bulk modify all the properties on my sheet. So I can come in here now, do an individual properties on one of the sheets, go to the Attributes tab, and see that the information has been recorded. So I'll hit close on that. Now what I'll do is I'll double click first thing I'll do actually is properties. I've got to associate this to MicroStation because I want to open this up in MicroStation and now look at the changes that have been done just by me modifying these attributes. So I'm going to associate this to MicroStation XM, hit save, and then I'm going to execute this to open it up in MicroStation. And this DGN will be brought up in MicroStation. I'll switch back to MicroStation, and you can see that the DGN is populated here. And we can see over here in the title block information, this is the cool thing that I'm wanting to show here today in the automatic title block creation, is that text has been replaced by the text that I entered in for the sheet. So as I look at the DGN, I can see that the project has been replaced with the Highway 12. I can see the project number there. I can see the director of the agency, the letting year, and again, these are all items that I might actually put in the title block anywhere I want them. I just wanted to put them out here so that we could see that there was text there before, and it's now been replaced by the title block integration. You can also see down here that I also had through my InRoads on the in the Planner Profile Generator, I had it populate some title block data, and this is the name of the alignment. This is the date that the sheet was created on. I can see that it populated sheet 2 of 4. Again, this is information that InRoads knew about, so I'm using a mix of title block population, stuff that InRoads knows about down here, and stuff that might be generic for the product that we can do bulk edits on through the title block integration. So that just demonstrates real quick the power of this title block integration. So now I want to go in and show how this has been integrated into cross sections now. And to do that, first I'm going to go back and reopen my survey.dgn sheet. Alright, so we've added this functionality for Planner Profile Generator. Like I said, it's been there for a while, and I'm going to add that information, or they've added now in SP1 the ability to do that in cross sections. So if we go to the evaluation cross section, create cross section command, I'm going to load a preference real quick, call reference border. And the first thing I want to do is go to the Details tab and then go to the Symbols and Details leaf. And really, all they've added to support this functionality is this little portion down here at the bottom, include ProjectWise title block and cell name. So like I said, there's two methods for populating the title block. One is to have it place a cell here, and this cell gets placed at the 00 point on the border. When we use a reference border, if we go back to the layout now and go to the sheet border, I'm going to specify a reference file here. I'm going to specify that same reference file border that we used in the Planner Profile Generator, my D-size border. This border, as many of you might be familiar with setting these up already, this border file has its 00 point at the lower left-hand corner of the reference border. So when we go to place the title block cell, we're placing the origin of that title block cell at that same spot, the 00 location on that border. This is the location that all of our measurements inside the cross sections, all of our margins and our custom height and width are measured all off of that 00 point. So that's the insertion point of this cell that we specified over here in Symbols and Details. And again, the other option is if we go out to the Layout and Sheet Border tab again, and I'm switching back and forth a lot here, but if I choose, instead of using a reference file, if I choose a cell name, all I have to do is choose a cell that has the title block nested in it. So this is going to be a cell that has, you know, all the border information in it, but also nested within that title block is going to be the tags that the ProjectWise title block integration reads to replace with the text. And we'll run that here in a second as well. So again, I'm using the reference file border. I'm just going to check my settings real quick. I'm going to go ahead and create some cross sections to demonstrate that this morning. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to go to layout, sheet border. That looks good, and I'm going to use my under details, symbols and details, I'm going to use that same ProjectWise title block cell. So when I hit apply here, I'm going to manipulate my view a little bit so I can get them up above my profiles. Alright, it created my cross section, so let's go out and look at them now. Again, it's referenced in the border. That's all the white border information here. And it's put a project code. All this again is my title block information. So if I want to, so all these sheets are created in this one DGN, survey.dgn. So what I can do is I can come down in the key in and type in title block modify and hit enter. And what that does is that pulls up the properties information from ProjectWise. So I can go for my survey DGN, change the attributes, and I can create the project name. I think I called it Highway 12 before. I can give it my project code, my route number, my director, again in the letting year, just whatever generic information again. As soon as I hit save and close on that, you can see that all of my cross-section sheets have been updated with the title block information. So we can tell through these just quick demonstration the power and the bulk editing and the CAD standards that this allows. So what I'm going to do now is go through a detailed explanation of how to set this up in the ProjectWise Administrator and how to set it up through the cell and through the use of tags and tag sets in MicroStation. So the first step we're going to do is to create a tag set, because how this ultimately works is ProjectWise scans the DGN and it scans the cells and looks for tag sets that match the environment name. Then within those tag sets it replaces the text with the text that's been entered in on the Attributes tab and the Properties. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the border DGN, because again this is a cell I'm going to create to go in within my border. So I'm going to go to File, Open. I'm going to open up my D-size border again, just to have a reference of where I'm going to put my my cell data. All right, and the first thing I'm going to do is create a tag set. Now this tag set name is important. Element. I'm going in MicroStation to Element Tags Define. In my sets here, I'm going to hit Add. And I'm going to create a tag set name. And I'll call this one just something generic, ProjectWise Title. Kind of doing it on the fly here. But again, this tag set name is very important, because this tag set is what's going to be scanned by ProjectWise. So inside of the tag set, I can create as many tags as I want to that I might want to replace in my border file. So in this example, I'm just going to do one just for time constraints. I'm going to add one tag, and I'm going to call it Project, for example. And this would be where we would enter in the name of the project for the sheets that we're creating. Alright, we're going to accept all these others, and we've created a project tag. So now what we have to do is for some graphic element out here, and let me turn graphic group off. For some graphic element, I'll actually go and place a point in my DGN. And to place the point, I'm going to key in place point. Enter. And I'm just going to place a data point. And what this does is it's going to give me an element to attach my tag to. So I'm just going to place it just somewhere out here. Normally I would put it 0, 0 here, but I want to be able to identify it, so I'm going to place it a little bit out here. And all that does is give me an element to attach the tag to. Now, when I attach my tag set, I'll go over here and click on the Attach Tags button and choose Attach Tags. Again, I'll choose the new tag set that I created, PW Title, and I'll attach it here to this new graphic element that I created. Now you can see the name Project is the tag name that I created. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a value here that'll show, it'll just show the text, and hit OK. And then I can come out, and again I'm just going to put this text somewhere where we can see it, and I'm just going to put it down in the lower left. Now what I'll do is when you're creating this title block, initially you're going to place the text wherever you want to, over here in the border, exactly where it goes. If you're going to fill in, for example, the construction contractor number over here, you'd put the element text right here. And well, let's go ahead and do that for this example, for this purposes. We'll say this is the construction contractor number, the tag. I didn't name it correctly, but it'll at least give us somewhere to look and show us how it's going to be placed. This text here is formatted using my active text attribute. So if I wanted to rotate it, or if I wanted to change the font or the color, I would go into whatever's active currently now in my place text command. That's what it's using. So I'm just going to accept this default. I just want to go through this setup real quickly. So there I can see my my project is going to be placed there off of this element here. So what I'm going to do temporarily, I want to create a cell now out of this graphic element, including this project key here. So I'm going to delete everything else. So I'm just going to hit the delete key, and let me turn my graphic group back on so it can grab all that. I'm going to hit the delete command there. So all I have is my one graphic element here that has the attached tag. This is normally going to be at the 0, 0 position, and then the actual tag itself is over here, and that's what's going to create my cell. So I'm going to place my fence to encompass these items, and then I'm going to place the cell origin, which is going to be, again, the 0, 0 point here. Then I'm going to create the cell. Create cell project. And when I hit enter, the cell has been created. Alright, so now the next step, once I've created the cell from the tagged graphics, is I need to go back to the ProjectWise Administrator, and I need to create an environment that matches my tag set name. So what I'm going to do here, again, real quick before I leave, I'm just going to verify the name of my tag set, which is PW Title. This is important because it's got a match. I'm going to close out of that. I'm going to go ahead and leave the D border, go back to my survey DGN that has my cross sections in it. Alright, and now I'm going to go to the ProjectWise Administrator to create the environment. So I can see here in the environment I have other ones created, title block, dtitle, all these reference that environment, all these reference the tag sets that I might use in other border files. So what I'm going to do is create a new one now for the PW title that I created, and I'm just going to copy one of the ones that are existing and paste it in here. And I'm going to give it the environment name, which has to match my tag set name, again, is PW Title. And then the table name is really not important for my purposes here today. So there, once the environment is created, I can go in and I can create an attribute. You see it had one in here already from the one I created, but I'm going to create a new attribute, and this attribute is going to be project. So it correlates one-to-one with that project tag that I put out there. And its data type is going to be a character. And its length, I'll just limit it to 32 characters. So when I hit OK, my project attribute gets created. Now for this environment, PW title, I have to go and create an attribute layout. So I'm going to click on the Attributes tab, and this is how my Attributes tab is going to look. And I want to be able to go in there and populate the project field, so I'm just going to right click and hit Add Attribute, and there are my two attributes that are in my environment. I'm going to choose Project, hit OK, and it populates it in there. Now I had said 32 characters, so I'm just going to drag that over, give me more room there. And again, I'm just creating one for the purposes of time, but you would, all these attributes that you would want to populate in your title block, you would create here. And then the last step, once you have the environment and the attribute layout created, the last step is going to be to come down and create attribute exchange rules. So we'll come down, and again, this is in the ProjectWise Administrator, MicroStation title blocks, and I'm going to create a new title block. And again, I'm going to keep my naming consistent, I'm going to name it PW title. So we can see that the new attribute class has been created. And I'm going to say OK. The next step we see under the attribute class, we have to create a binding. So we'll go to New Attributes. The attribute name is going to be Project. Hit Next, and we're going to add a binding to this attribute. And what this is going to do is this is going to bind that attribute that I created in the environment to this attribute exchange rule. It's going to so therefore it uses these attribute exchange rules to populate that title block information. So I'm going to hit the add. It's going to be coming from an environment. The environment is PW title, and I'm going to create project. Hit OK. There, it's added, and I'm done. Now the ProjectWise Administrator and ProjectWise Explorer will know how to go and populate the title blocks in this environment. So once that's created, the next step is to go back to my ProjectWise Explorer and create a new folder so that I can associate my new environment to the folder. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to create this in the Kevin McDonald directory. I'm going to create new folder. And again, just so we know what we're doing here, I'm going to call it PW title. And let me just do it exactly like I entered it in on the others. Ooh, and before I hit the add button there, I want to choose my new environment that I created called PW title. That's why we're doing this. So now when we hit OK, now when we copy data into our PW title sheet here, we're going to automatically associate these files to our attribute data, and that allows us the title block integration to populate the fields. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy in my files. I need some files in here. I'm going to run through the cross-section editor so we can see the use of this new title block data. So I'm just going to copy some files in from another project so I can run through the creation there. Okay, now the files are in my PW title. So when I right click on survey.dgn, for example, I can go to its properties now, and I can see on the attributes tab my one project that was created. And again, it took the data. I also had a project in my other attribute set. So I'm just going to delete that out of there for now. Hit save and close. And now I'm going to launch this DGN, and I'm going to run it using the cross-section commands again to populate the title block data. So what I'm going to do now is switch back there. I'm going to go to File, Open in MicroStation, and I'm going to browse to my other DGN and my new PW title. And again, all my data is set correctly, so I can go right back in now to the evaluation cross-section create cross-section command. And I'm going to load my preference again. And we'll choose the cell named project, which is what we created earlier with the tag set PW title. So when I hit apply, it'll create my new cross-section sheets. I can close now. I'm going to zoom into that little portion above the contractor name, and I can see that the project is up here. There's probably a little problem with my scale from my preferences being a little bit different after I copied. So project is up here instead of right here. When I go again to do title block data, title block modify, hit open, I can go to the attributes on my DGN and enter in my project name. Save and close. You can see now through the title block integration it's automatically populated the project. So that is a detail of how to set it up through the environments and attributes in the ProjectWise administrator. I'm going to switch back to the PowerPoint real quick. The next thing we're going to talk about is using managed workspaces within InRoads. And prior to ProjectWise 08, 09, 04, MicroStation would not be able to execute when double-clicking a DGN file within ProjectWise that was associated with the InRoads group products if it had managed workspace associated and assigned. The main reason it was doing this is because by default the MS Underbar DGN apps setting in the managed workspace was already populated, and that was kind of interfering a little bit with the InRoads group. And we'll pop over here to the ProjectWise Explore and look at our managed workspaces to show that. We'll go to Workspace Profiles, Managed, and then in my example I have some in here in Project, and we'll look at the civil, for example. A civil file. When this is created by default, we can see through the variables list here that MS Underbar DGN apps, this is the one InRoads looks at when it starts, was by default created with a sync by level value, and just by having this value in there it was kind of messing up with the startup. So starting again in ProjectWise 894, they allowed a way to work around this in the start. Now if you're not up yet to ProjectWise 894, there were a couple of workarounds if you wanted to work with managed workspaces. The first one was to double click the InRoads executable with ProjectWise enabled in the pw.cfg file, and then log into the ProjectWise database. This is out on your desktop. So if I go and look at the pw.config file, if you did have this enabled for ProjectWise integration when MicroStation was launched, you could launch an InRoads executable out on your desktop to launch it that way, and it would integrate through here with the managed workspaces associated to the DGNs that you would select. That was one workaround in the past. The other was to just double click on a DGN inside of ProjectWise Explorer that was associated with MicroStation and then load the InRoads through the MA file. That was another way to kind of get around it. But we now, with ProjectWise 894.15, that was I think the first release build of 894, MicroStation can now execute when you double click on a DGN associated with InRoads. So we fixed that up. But there's one little trick, and that's what I'm going to show you today. What we'll do is we'll create a managed workspace, and we'll set the MicroStation DGN apps to know where to go look for InRoads. And then the trick here is we're going to associate that managed workspace to the InRoads applications, and that's what I'm going to show here. So the first thing I'm going to do is go back to the ProjectWise administrator, and I'm going to create a new managed workspace. And I'm going to call it Launch InRoads for lack of a better name. I've created it now, and the one variable I want in here is a new variable called ms_dgn apps, just as I showed before. And what I need to have in here, there's two things I can put in here in the values. I can either put a full path to the InRoads MA, which is the civust xm.ma file. I can either hard code that path, or I can use the variable that we've used. Many of you are already familiar with the BSI _civil _app variable that I can put in there. So that's what I'm going to do. And here I'm going to add a string value. I'm going to add that variable, $, parentheses, BSI _civil _app. So again, this is acceptable, or the full path C:\program files, Bentley, InRoads Group, bin, civustation exm or civustation xm.ma. The full path to the MA file is also acceptable. So when I hit OK here, I've added that value to this configuration. I say OK, and I'm done. I'm just going to apply it and hit OK. So Launch InRoads is now created as a managed workspace. So all I have to do now is go in and associate this workspace to the application. So what I'm going to do is go into my list of applications. I'm going to find InRoads, which is what I've been using today. I'm going to right click on it and hit Properties. You can see there's a tab up here for Managed Workspace. So the ability to associate that workspace to this application is what we're concerned with today. And you can see that there are none associated already. So what I'm going to do is right click on Project and hit Add Association, and I'm going to choose the Launch InRoads workspace that I just created. I'm going to hit Apply and OK. So now it should be good. Now if I go in back to the ProjectWise Explore, I'm going to flip back over there. Any application that I launch now, let me free up some of my files here, and I'll relaunch a DGN. I'm going to free up that survey DGN, and I'm going to go out, if you bear with me a second, and just get completely out of MicroStation and InRoads, because I want to show you that when it starts up, it's going to launch with that managed workspace and allow InRoads to be launched. I'm just going to free all these. Alright, so I can see that this survey DGN, when I right click on it and go to Properties, I can see that it is associated to that InRoads application. And now that that InRoads application has associated that managed workspace, it will be able to launch MicroStation and InRoads. So when I hit Apply, MicroStation comes up, InRoads is launched, and I can go to Workspace, About Workspace, and I can see that the project launch InRoads configuration has been launched. And all this does is this allows me then to use any other managed workspace that might have been associated. I didn't associate any for this example, but if any other were associated, that ms_dgn apps were populated by any of the other workspaces, the fact that this workspace has also been associated now will allow me to run that. So that is a simple fix, but it's very powerful. Allows for use of all the managed workspace functionality within ProjectWise. So we saw the automatic title block population, which allows a bulk editing, really powerful tool for creating and editing all the sheets that you might generate in your sheet sets. And that and the use of the managed workspaces really affords some valuable capabilities to maintain CAD standards. So that concludes this demonstration on title block integration and managed workspaces with InRoads and ProjectWise.